Okay, welcome to my inspirational webinar on the UK Global Talent Visa. Thank you for joining me today. The contents for today will be, obviously I'll be speaking about what is the Global Talent Visa, the stage 1 endorsement application and process. I'll talk a little bit about the 2025 changes as well. This year there've been so much going on with the UK Global Talent Visa guidelines and as well as the immigration landscape as well. Then I will interview Noi, who received his Global Talent Visa very recently, and I will be asking Noi some questions. And please do ask your questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end. But hopefully we can answer them during the webinar as well. So just a little bit about me. If you haven't met me, I think I've met some of you already over Zoom and having a chat with you. My name is Michelle Hewer. I am Vietnamese by background. I hold 3 citizenships, Australian, British, through the Global Talent Visa, and I'm an Irish citizen as well. I'm a Global Talent Visa coach, and how I became a coach, I've been through the process myself. So in 2016, nearly 10 years ago, I received my endorsement for exceptional talent back in 2016. And then shortly after I received my UK Global Talent Visa, I became the Tech Nation Visa Ambassador for a few years. The reason was because when the Global Talent Visa was introduced, not many people applied and they didn't really know about it. So they required some ambassadors to share their story and talk about their journey to help others as well. I was in the top 50 that received the Global Talent Visa. So that's how I started helping people and talking about it and sharing my story. In 2019, I received my indefinite leave to remain visa, and then I went on to get my British citizenship. I spent 7 years in the UK and I based myself in the north of England, in Manchester and Newcastle, and then travelled quite a bit down to London to work on my startup and promote my startup. I used to be, in my past life, a solicitor in Australia. I was a commercial and property law solicitor, and then moved to England and then got bitten by the entrepreneurship bug. And how I got into it was I actually entered a hackathon in Manchester and won the hackathon. And that's how it all started. I started my own startup called Made with Glove. It was fashionable wearable tech heated gloves for women. And that's how I started my journey. And that's how I ended up getting my Global Talent Visa, was doing all that. Once I got my visa, I wrote about it and I started interviewing other people that received their visa. And again, that's how I became the ambassador. So I wrote a blog called, Tech Nation Visa Blog, and interviewed people and really just promoted the visa because it was such a flexible visa. It allowed anyone to work anywhere in the UK in the tech sector. So over the years, 9 years, I've coached over 2,000 tech entrepreneurs, senior execs, and tech employees. During COVID, which was a very hard time for the world, everyone was at home. I helped a lot of people from Nigeria during that time, and I got a 100% success rate during that time. And over the summer this year, I got a 100% success rate. The average success rate that I have is 90%, but the endorsement rate for Tech Nation is 54%. And the best result that my clients have received is getting a decision within 3 to 27 hours. I've got a couple of clients who submitted, and within a few hours, within a day, they receive the result. Not everyone does that. Not everyone receives that, but that's one of my biggest achievements with my clients. The average is about 3 to 4 weeks. So some of my clients have come from big tech corporations such as Meta, Google, Zoom, Spotify, Shopify, Deliveroo, all the big tech companies. But I also help, startup founders, CTOs, CEOs, VPs, and then you can see I help everyone in the tech sector. Even though I help people who have very similar roles, everyone has a story to tell, and that's what I bring out in everyone's application. I can help 2 CEOs, but their stories are so different. Everyone has a different, unique experience that they can share with the assessor through their application documents. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not affiliated with the Home Office or Technation. I used to be the Technation Visa Ambassador. I'm no longer an ambassador, and I'm not an immigration solicitor, and I only help with stage 1 endorsements. So over the years, when I started my startup, I was featured in a lot of magazines and articles, and that's what I used to help me with my mandatory criteria leadership. I was interviewed and featured in TechCrunch, Business Leader, Media Tech Lab. I was a judge at an online hackathon. I was quoted in books. I hosted events and roundtables and things like that, and appeared at the Sunday Times through my startup. So I was very active in the tech community, both all in Newcastle, London, and Manchester. And one of the things I also did was I founded or co-founded a wearable tech community called Women of Wearables, and that's still going on today. I started it but exited as well because I was focusing on my startup and other things. But that's something that I'm very proud of, because I was able to create and grow a community within a short space of time. And that's a significant contribution to the tech sector. And I'm so proud that it is still running, and my co-founder is doing some amazing things with Women of Wearables. Yeah, these are the types of things that the assessors are looking for to showcase your mandatory criteria leadership and your optional criteria too, which is voluntary contributions to the tech sector. So here it all started with one blog, and that's how I started helping people. I wanted to share my story because when I applied, I knew no one. And I couldn't really ask anyone. No one was really applying for it. So I wrote a blog. That blog went viral, and that's how I started helping people. So you can read about it on my website. I haven't really changed the blog that much, actually. I think back, and yeah, it's very similar. And every time I help my clients, and every successful decision brings me back to when I received my result and decision. I got my endorsement, and I couldn't really share it with anyone because I didn't know anyone else that was going through that same process. So it's why I really want to be there for my clients and for anyone who has received it, because no one knows this journey other than those who have been through it. So it really is a intense moment and pressurized journey. But when you come out of it the other side, it's you're all trauma bonded if you do receive a successful result. So yeah, it's something that I really do cherish, and really do remember exactly where I was when I received my endorsement. It is life-changing getting the endorsement. So because it is so life-changing and I've helped so many people, I help a lot of people online, and I don't get to meet my clients face to face. So especially during COVID. So I organize and host my own alumni events with my clients, and we meet up in London and celebrate, and just really, let everyone meet everyone, because this is a community. It may be an online community, but to bring everyone in real life, and to have such great celebrations, and just to meet people like you who have received the Global Talent Visa and have gone through the process. So if anyone is my client, they will be invited to my alumni events in London. So there have been some updates in this year, and it's been crazy with the Global Talent Visa guidelines. So starting from January, there weren't any updates in 2024. So when you go through the guidelines, there is a change log, and they will tell you in that change log what the updates are. But just for January 2025, there were minor changes to the guidelines and criteria. And then in May, there was an immigration white paper that kind of sent everyone into a frenzy. But I mean, the title "Restoring Immigration Control in the UK," that kind of put everyone's fear up, and it was quite scary. But if you do look at it and read it, and I've got a blog on it on my website, it talks about wanting to bring more global talent to the UK. So it is positive from the Global Talent Visa perspective, but not overall from an immigration perspective. So just have a read of it, and don't, I did get a lot of emails about it, but that's why I wrote a blog on it. At the end of May, there was also an announcement by the Home Office that Technation were confirmed to be the endorsing body for the next 3 years. So that's great. There was a tender process. TechNation have always been the endorsing body since 2014. So it's great that they have continued to be the endorsing body. And then in August, just more recently, there were more changes to the guidelines, mainly to the application process. There was a fast track route, but there's no longer a fast track route. And they talk about fraud as well. So I did a video on the changes on my YouTube, so you'll see that. So those are the main changes, and I do tell you about the updates and changes, so sign up to my newsletter and also read the change log on the guidelines regularly, because they don't announce the changes, it just pops up on the website. So quickly, what is the Global Talent Visa? That's what you're here for. It used to be called the Exceptional Talent Visa, and that's what I applied for, which was quite confusing because back then they did have two categories. There was the Exceptional Talent category and the Exceptional Promise category, but they called it the Exceptional Talent Visa. But obviously there is a difference between exceptional talent and promise, and I'll go through that in a sec. So that it was and still is a special visa that was introduced to allow highly skilled tech entrepreneurs and talent the ability to apply for the right to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. It's a two-stage process, so you must be endorsed by TechNation. So that's stage one, which I help with, and you have to meet the strict criteria set by TechNation. And once you are endorsed, then you can apply for stage two, Global Talent Visa. It is more than a job application. So if you have a look at the criteria, which I'll quickly go through, you'll see that yes, it's got, you need to have some examples of your work in the tech sector, but it's more than that. It's about your leadership in the tech sector and how you are deemed a leader or an emerging leader in the tech sector. The Global Talent Visa is an umbrella visa for a lot of different industries and sectors. So TechNation is the endorsing body for the digital tech sector, but there's other endorsing bodies for other sectors such as fashion, architecture, science and engineering, arts. So they each have their own endorsing bodies, but this is the TechNation visa because TechNation is the endorsing body for digital tech. The benefits is that you have the freedom and flexibility to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. You can apply for indefinite leave to remain and citizenship, which I can attest to. I have that. You can also switch from Tier 2 skilled worker visa to global talent, and the time in the UK, your time in the UK counts. And this is something that I help a lot with people who have a skilled worker visa. And that's really important because, time in the UK, it makes a difference. And I had the entrepreneur's visa first. And then when I switched to my global talent visa, my time in the UK under the global talent visa counted, which is great. So it just kept ticking along. And then I was able to apply for indefinite leave to remain and citizenship without my clock restarting. You can bring your dependents with you. You can also register a UK limited company. This is especially important for students because students are on a different kind of visa, their student visa, and they can't register a UK limited company under their student visa. So when they switch to global talent, they can. Unfortunately, their time in the UK doesn't count towards the global talent. You can also work for a tech company without the need for company sponsorship. And again, I help a lot of people with this, especially those who are on a skilled worker visa who may have been made redundant or don't like their jobs and they want to, leave their jobs, but they can't because they're attached to their jobs through the certificate of sponsorship. So that's a great thing about the Global Talent Visa. It's attached to you. I had the Global Talent Visa when I had my startup, but then obviously, sometimes startups can get a bit, not tedious, but you just want to break from, managing everything to working for someone and earning a regular income. So I went from managing my own startup, I took a bit of a break, took on a maternity role and worked for a university. And then I worked for an accelerator, and then I had a nice break and then went back to my startup. So it was really good. They didn't care about, we didn't care about visas because I had my own visa and I could do that. And that gave me that freedom and flexibility. It's also quite cost effective in that the stage one application, the endorsement application is in the hundreds. It's not in the thousands. It's only when you go for stage two that the fee is a little bit more, but the application fee itself is in the hundreds. The main fee is really the NHS fee, which is the immigration health surcharge fee, but you don't need to pay that until you know that you are endorsed. So, I guess it is worth it because you know that, you are endorsed and you pay that fee. Just a few stats. So there are people coming from all over the world. There's 90 plus countries from where people are applying from. As I said before, there's a 54% endorsement rate, which isn't great. That means 1 in 2 applications are not successful. When I applied though in 2016, it was about a 68% endorsement rate, but I guess that's because not many people knew about it. And we were kind of figuring things out. The criteria was very unclear. It really was a bit chaotic because we didn't really know what was going on. So, it was a very new visa at the time. But as time went on, more people knew about it, more people applying, and obviously that's why the endorsement rate is a lot less. I am asking for more stats. So it could be higher or lower, I'm not sure, but I will keep you updated on that. And over the years, there have been over 5,000 successful recipients. I think it's a lot more now. But the reason also for this low number, not only because of the endorsement rate or the low endorsement rate, is because when I applied and up until I think a few years ago, they had a cap in endorsements. So they only 200 people per year could get endorsed with exceptional talent or promise. When you think about it, that's mad. And not only did you have to worry about making that, being under that cap, you also had to obviously meet the guidelines. So it was really, really strict. But now, over in the last few years, they took off their caps, so it's unlimited endorsements now. So stats on talent and promise, there's 68-32 for talent and promise applications, and obviously we know that the male female split in the tech sector, it is male dominated, so that's why there's more. And then once you do get endorsed and get your visa, you can join the general technician visa alumni, and you can go to the events and everything as well there. But also, if you are my client, you can also come to my events, and I have an alumni there as well. So it's a great community. I'm part of that alumni, but I also have my own alumni. So again, these stats are again 5 years old. I have asked for more recent stats, but they haven't really changed over the years. So you can see these numbers, don't let that put you off, but that's the stats that they had at the time. So those from these countries, South Africa down to US and China, high rate of endorsements, whereas these other countries here is a lower rate of endorsement. And I help people from all over the world. I do help more people in this bracket here. But also, this one's an anomaly because I saw the actual numbers from China at that time. And I think only 3 people applied from China at the time and 2 were endorsed. So that's why, just be careful about reading these stats. So it's just a general guidance, but don't take that as gospel. If you're from these countries, definitely do apply. It doesn't matter. And these, because it's a tech visa, so obviously if you're a software engineer, that it's a tech skill, but they do, those who have a business skill are also eligible, which we will find out from Noi later on. So you can see software engineer, but then biz dev comes straight in right, after that. But again, it's 2020 stats, but haven't changed over the years. Have a look at these. So those are the skills. And then down here in the different sectors, these are some more stats down here. AI, I help a lot of people. AI, machine learning, data, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity was a big one at one point. I helped so many people in cybersecurity, data. So there's a huge range. 1 in 3 have software engineering skills and 1 in 4 are founders. I do get a lot of people asking me if this is just for founders. This visa is not just for founders. It's for founders and employees. So again, these are my stats from the last sort of nearly 10 years, 8 years. You can see I applied in 2016, so there weren't many back then, but over the years, these are the applications submitted. So if with a 54% success rate or endorsement rate, you can kind of see how many people were endorsed. So this shot up because back then TechNation announced their closure, which they didn't really close, but that was an announcement, and then they got bought out by Founders Forum. So that shot up a lot at that time, and also around COVID time as well. I was very busy then. But you can see it's slowly going up over the years, and the timeline is from April to March. So the year for these stats start on the 1st of April to the 31st of March. That's why it's the 25, 26. It hasn't finished yet. You've got until March, so we can see what the real stats are at the end there. So just quickly, you need 15 documents in your Global Talent Visa application. It's quite a lot. But 5 of those documents everyone needs to provide. So that's your CV, personal statement, and 3 letters of recommendation by experts in your field. And then the rest and the remaining are 10 documents, which is evidence that you put against the mandatory and optional criteria. So let's have a look. So you can apply for exceptional talent or exceptional promise. Those who apply for exceptional talent should be more than 5 years experience in their career. They're later on in their career. You need to prove your leadership through your skills and achievements. And these are for people with more senior roles. Okay, so senior leaders, managers, CTOs, CEOs. But those who apply for exceptional promise have less than 5 years experience in the tech sector. They're earlier in their career and you need to prove your potential to be a leader. And they're more for students, graduates, and people who, have less than 5 years experience of working in the tech sector. The reason is because, you can't compare the two, someone with less than 5 years experience to over more than 5 years experience. So that's why they split it. And the main difference is if you are endorsed with talent, within 3 years, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain. And if you apply for promise, it's within, and you get it, it's within 5 years, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain and then citizenship. So the difference is in 2 years. Interestingly, when I applied, they just said, are you going for talent or promise? And they didn't even explain what the difference was. I just ticked talent because, I don't know, it just looked, I didn't know what a promise was. A talent, you can kind of figure it out. And also the visa was called exceptional talent. So I just ticked it, not knowing what that meant. And it was only after, I think, 2 years that they actually distinguished between the difference and then said, if you've got talent, then in 3 years you can apply for indefinite leave to remain. So we didn't really know at that time, which was mad. But I was very lucky, thankfully. I didn't actually at the time have 5 years experience, come to think of it. I think I had less, but I did prove, I guess, when I ticked the box, I did prove I had talent, skills and evidence, so that they gave it to me, and also because I applied for it. So, but now it's very clear, talent or promise, and pick the right one. A lot of people who have more than 5 years experience try to click promise, but the assessor will see what you're trying to do, but they will assess you under talent if you have more than 5 years experience. So don't try and be cheeky, because a lot of people do that. But I say, look, stick to the guidelines, because it can work against you if you tick the wrong box. Eligibility, that you can have a technical or business skill. So those are the list of skills. But if the tech sector, this is not exhaustive, the tech sector does move so fast and roles and skills change. So just pick the one that's closest to you, and then kind of explain that throughout your evidence. The one skill, those people who aren't eligible are those who work for consultancies or agencies. That's a big one. So I do get questions a lot, and I'm sorry, you're not eligible because you work for a consultant or agency, and it's very clear. Okay. Also, if you are a junior investor, you're not eligible. You can't even go under promise. Investors should only go under talent, and who have more than 5 years experience, and who have invested in more than 25 million pounds. So that's an interesting one. It's a shame, but they've made that very clear. They only want investors who are under talent and who have invested more than 25 million. Yeah. Okay. Now, the definition of product-led digital technology company was only just introduced in the last sort of 5 years. When I applied and when this was going on, they didn't really explain what product-led digital technology company was, so people didn't really know. So now they have. It's defined as a business that provides a proprietary digital technical service, product, platform, or hardware as a primary revenue source. So anything that a company develops and owns and then sells by license or subscription, that would be a product-led digital technology company. So then that talks about no consultancies or outsourcers, because they don't develop their own proprietary software, hardware, or platform. Okay, that's very important, because that's throughout all the guidelines. So just quickly, here's the criteria. You can go for talent or promise. You have to choose the mandatory leadership criteria. When I applied, this wasn't mandatory, it was optional, but they've changed it all around. So now there's only one mandatory criteria. You need at least 3 or 4 pieces of evidence against each criteria to make up the 10 documents. And then with the optional criteria, you choose 2 out of 4. So you can choose innovation, so proven track record of innovation of what you've done at your work. Optional criteria 2 is voluntary contributions that advances the tech sector. 3 is your commercial, technical, or entrepreneurial impact. And 4 is any academic contributions. And that's not to do with your studies. It has to be more than your studies. So any published papers and things like that. So you only choose 2 out of 4. And out of 2 of the 4, you put 3 or 4 pieces of evidence against the criteria that you've chosen. I chose 2 and 4 and leadership, but it was a bit different. My academic contributions was work with the university when I was building my startup, and I was doing some research on that. But I think the safest criteria to choose is 2 and 3. Okay. But I will talk to you about that when you call me for an eligibility call. We'll talk about your criteria. But in general, optional criteria 2 and 3 and mandatory criteria 1. So the process is there's 2 stages. There's 2 stages and then kind of 2 steps within the first stage. So first of all, once you have prepared your documents, and it takes a couple of months to prepare your documents, you pay $561 and you pay and apply online at the Home Office. And then the new changes is now you email your documents to the Home Office. Before, there was the TechNation portal, and you uploaded all your documents to the TechNation portal and you submit it that way. It was very easy online. Now they've changed it. There's 2 steps here. You pay online at the Home Office, and then once you pay online, you get a checklist and then you email it to them. I'm not sure I quite like this process, but that's how they've changed it. When I applied, I had to send it. I had to print everything out and send it to Sheffield, and then just wait. But at least now it's all online. Then it's up to 8 weeks for a decision. The average is 3 to 4 weeks, and you just basically wait for a decision from the Home Office. There's no way to check, and you can't even email them to say, have you got my application? Only after 8 weeks. Okay, so in the guidelines, in the code of conduct and things, it's 80%. They need to decide 80% of applications within, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. And then they have up to 8 weeks to decide. So don't chase until after 8 weeks, which I know it's painful waiting for that long, but you just have to. Then they tell you whether or not you're successful or unsuccessful. If you are successful, well done. You go to stage 2, and that's when you apply for your visa, and you pay, I think it's $201, and then your biometrics, the immigration health surcharge is $1,035 per year per person. So that's where the expense is, and it could take between 3 to 8 weeks. Mine was very, very quick. I think mine was like a week after I got my biometrics done. So that's if you are successful. And also, unfortunately, when I applied back then, it was only $200 per year, and it's a lot now. So just try and apply as soon as you can before it increases again. Now, if you are unsuccessful, unfortunately, you do have the opportunity to appeal, and there is no cost involved with the appeal. And you can appeal because the assessor made a mistake. And then you've got 28 calendar days to appeal the decision. There's a form and everything. I help a lot with appeals. And then once you send in the form and your decision and your response to assessor's decision, they have 28 calendar days to respond. And then either it's successful or unsuccessful. If it's successful, great, you go through stage 2. If it's not, you need to think about, okay, let's look at the feedback, because they'll send it to another assessor, give you further feedback, and then you can use 2 pieces of feedback from your initial unsuccessful decision and the second one, and then you can reapply and resubmit. And we'll talk about that later with Noi. So these are the common questions I get, and I can help everyone with these. Am I eligible? How do I present my documents? What's relevant? Who can be my experts? How do I show my innovations? How do I show my impact? How do I show that I'm exceptional or emerging leader? How much experience do I need? I've received an unsuccessful result. What should I do? Should I appeal or resubmit? And these are very common questions, and I can answer them. If you have those specific questions, I I help everyone with these types of questions. I have a website that gives you lots and lots of resources and information about the Global Talent Visa. More importantly, I can check your eligibility as well. So you can fill out my eligibility questionnaire, and then I can invite you for a 15-minute discovery call. But there's loads and loads of things on my website, so you can have a little look at that. I've got a YouTube video as well, a channel as well, so you can watch all my YouTubes. And under my resources, I've got lots of blogs as well. My top tips, I don't know, I'm using my coach hat and my recipient hat. This is your chance to tell your unique story. As I said, everyone has a story to tell, and they need to tell it throughout their 15 pieces of evidence in their document. It also relies on your tech network, and I feel that without my tech network, I wouldn't have received my endorsement. They are your net worth. So focus on building and maintaining your relationships with people in the tech sector, and don't burn any bridges if you can help it. This process is about self-promotion, and it is so awkward writing great things about yourself, but you have to do it. And also, if you don't promote yourself, who is? The assessor's not going to be convinced if you can't convince the assessor how great you are and why you should be in the UK, and it's because of all the achievements. And if you have achieved great things, you're not bragging, it's actually fact. And if you've got the evidence for it, you've got letters of support and all your documents, it's not bragging, it's promoting yourself to convince the assessor that you deserve to be in the UK. Being eligible is one thing. Meeting the criteria requires a strategy in putting together all 15 pieces of evidence. I've read so many documents and applications that just the story isn't there, and it's all about storytelling, and it's about being clear and concise, because your application is going to be about 80 pages all in, and you're expecting someone to read it and trying to learn about you and what you've done in the last 5-7 years of your career in an hour. Obviously, if they're spending an hour to read your documents, they need to follow what they're reading. So it's almost like telling them the story about your career in the most visually appealing, structured, clear way. You don't want the assessors to question anything and go, oh, I don't understand what's going on, I'm confused, and then they just don't bother. So it really does require strategy in putting together everything and making it as clear as possible so they don't get lost. Contact me sooner rather than later if you need support. I can check, I can review, or have a strategy session with you. And yeah, really, it does help to get someone else to cast a look over your application and then give you some feedback. And a bonus tip is assessors don't click on links. So whatever links that you put in your evidence, there needs to be a screenshot attached to it, because they don't click on links. I know it's silly, like it's tech visa, it's a tech application. They don't like tech apparently, so they won't click on links. They won't watch videos. There is none of that. It's basically screenshots and just documents, so be wary. I've read applications with links all through it. The assessor didn't click on it and didn't really know what was going on, so they didn't read it. So they were unsuccessful. So I've got lots of different packages, and I just want to quickly tell you, it all starts with that eligibility questionnaire, and I'll invite you for a free discovery call. And then if you are eligible and you kind of meet the criteria, there's loads of different packages of support. The lowest form of investment, my online courses. I do have a leadership in tech course, which I'm really, really proud of, because leadership is one of those things that a lot of people need help with, but don't have the time to invest in. And I've done this myself. It took me 3-5 years to gain all this knowledge, but you can do it within sort of 3 to 6 months of all my methods that I've done myself, and I'm imparting that knowledge to you so that you can get ready for the Global Talent Visa. So that's my Leadership in Tech course. I've got a membership area where I have lots of templates and things which you can use to do the application yourself. But I think great value is to start with a strategy session, because it's a 2.5-hour session, and I go through all your evidence that you may have, or examples of you working in the tech sector, and then we'll put that against the criteria, talk about your experts and see, you know, what documents go where, what story you're going to tell. It's almost like starting a project. You need a plan and a strategy before you start any kind of project, and that's what we do together. And then you can upgrade to my review package or my premium bespoke coaching package. And this is my most popular package where I help you end to end for stage one. And I have meetings with you every week for however long it takes. It can take up to, you know, 6, 7 months, and that's fine. I will be with you every step of the way before you submit, and I can check and edit and just really help you tell your story to make sure you put a strong application. I can't guarantee endorsement because that the decision lies with the assessor, but I can guarantee a very strong application so that you know that you've done the absolute best you can, cross the every T and dot every I, so you go in confident knowing that you've done everything you can to make a strong application as to why you should deserve the endorsement. I also help with appeals as well. So that's all on my website. I just want to clarify that with you right now. So I know you're here for Noi this week, but next week I do have another inspirational webinar where I helped Peggy from China, who received her endorsement within 2 to 3 weeks of applying. And Peggy will come on next week to share her story. She was a student in London doing her master's, and then she received her master's and moved over to Saudi to work in smart cities, and then decided she wanted to come back to the UK. So I helped her with that over the summer and she received her endorsement. So sign up on that if you haven't already done so. But today we are here, and sorry, I took ages, sorry. I'd love to invite Noi, who received his global talent visa over the summer. Hi, Noi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sitting through this. The last 40 minutes, it's almost like a reminder that I don't know if you'd like to
That's
be
fine.
reminded of the whole process, but welcome and thank you so much for joining us to share your story. I'm so excited to have you.
Cool.
You have your global talent visa.
Correct. Yes.
Yay! It was a process which we'll go through. So I'd love to
Oh,
introduce, oh look, everyone's clapping. I'd love to
yeah.
introduce Noi. And Noi, can you please just introduce yourself and tell us about you?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Michelle. Happy to be here and nice to meet everyone. So I'm Noi. I'm from Ghana and I'm calling in from Ghana. I grew up in the UK. I went to high school there actually, and then I did my undergraduate studies at Duke University in the US, and then my MBA at Oxford University. Um, I've worked in and have a background in sales, business development, venture capital, and I've worked across the US, UK, and Ghanaian markets. I recently transitioned from a head of sales role at a startup, and I received the Exceptional Promise Global Talent Visa. And Michelle mentioned you remember where you are when you applied and when you get the endorsement. I was in Ghana when I applied and got the endorsement.
Yes, do you know what? It's ingrained in your head, I think, for the rest of your life because, you know, it's something that because you worked so hard with your application, I have to say applications, um,
Yeah.
and you finally got there in the end. And so tell me, why did you apply for the Global Talent? You're international, like you have education from the US, you've got so much experience in different countries and cultures. And why did you decide to apply for the UK Global Talent Visa?
Yeah, so I think three main reasons. The first would just be flexibility. So, I have a sales background. I've also worked in venture capital, some investment research, and I've tried my hand at quite a few different things. And I think with the visa, I really like the ability to do many different things and not be locked into a role. I know at some point in the near future, I'd also love to start my own company. And the Global Talent Visa is really receptive to that. So that's probably the first reason. The second reason would be just the familiarity and comfortability with the UK. I grew up there. I've had a lot of different experiences in Ghana, the US. I've spent some time in Hong Kong and Spain. But my formative years were definitely in the UK. So there's already an affiliation. And then I have a personal as well as a professional network there from high school and the MBA. So I think there's just lots of comfort there, which I know is personal to me and I don't think is by any means required for the visa. But that's the second. And then the third reason would just be the path to, ILR that you mentioned. I think during my time in the UK, I wasn't intentional about thinking that, living in the UK or London might be a possibility in the future. So I think this is just a good option to be a bit more intentional if I decide to go that route down the line.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know Spain and Hong Kong and geez,
Yeah.
we're so lucky to have you. We really are because you could have chosen the US or, any other country, but you decided to choose the UK. Okay, so what were some of the challenges and hesitations? Because, I mean, in reading the guidelines, it can be intimidating, but also, it can be inspiring at the same time, but I think more intimidating. But what were some of your challenges and hesitations, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I applied twice. So I think the challenge the first time would just be that I was quite time pressured. So I was on a graduate visa that ended in January of this year. And so I began my application sometime in November of last year and I rushed
Mm.
it. And I think organizing, all my experiences into one story was just quite a bit of a challenge. And then also just trying to highlight both my sales and venture capital experience. It made me just spread thin across both instead of focusing on
Mm.
one. And so yeah, I think just putting together the challenge, the application was a challenge the first time. And then I was unsuccessful the first time. So I then had to do an appeal, which is when I, first reached out to you. But that was also a challenge in itself, because you can't add new information. And you're trying to, reframe the perception of the assessor. So just those were the main challenges in the first time. The second time, I think, would just be that I'd applied once before and I wasn't successful. So my confidence in the process was a bit shaken. I'd also heard, different things from many people that you need to wait a certain amount of time. So I wasn't quite sure, how my application would change. And then the second thing with the second time was just not really thinking my profile fit the bill. I did some research and you would see all these technical founders and, people with software engineering skills. So it was actually helpful seeing your breakdown and seeing, business development as the second one. But yeah, I just really questioned, whether I had the relevant experience. But I think that's really where you came in, just helping one, give me the reassurance that I did have the profile, and that it was a framing issue. And two, just yeah, having your feedback from your experiences and then the feedback from my first application was really, really helpful. So those were the challenges, but I think working with you in a structured way was definitely a way to overcome it.
Yeah, and also you had time the second time around.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important to note because you only had, I mean, November to when your visa expired in January. Like, I do get a lot of people saying, my visa expiring, help. And I'm like, okay. You rush it and then you make mistakes and you don't give yourself the time. But the second time around, we had loads of time. I said, look, let's not rush this. Let's do it properly, especially knowing that you weren't successful the first time. So
Yeah.
going to the first and second time, what were the differences between your first and second application? Because when you were successful, I went straight to look at your second application, but then I went, let me just look at the first one again.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah, they were totally different. I mean, the main difference actually is the first time I went for exceptional talent, and then this time I went for exceptional promise. Um, and it was really helpful seeing your breakdown because um, even though I had maybe close to that 5 year criteria for talent, not all of it was specifically tech related experience. So I think that was the main difference. The second one was just the format and the structure. Like you said, I went back to my first application as well, and it's totally different. With this second one, even though you're only allowed 3 pages for the evidence. We put a lot more information in. It was a lot more visually appealing. It was just better labeled and, sort of easier to follow. So that was a big difference. And then I think also just the strategy that we had for the second one was a big difference. So, my first application, I focused on sales and VC, which just spread. I was spread too thin across both and wasn't really focused. But this one, I focused on sales. And then we had the strategy to put my venture capital experience more in OC2. So that was really helpful. And then I would say the letters of like recommenders that I used in the first application, I was very much focused on titles and went for, experts who they were great in their field, but they may not necessarily have good in-depth knowledge of my own experience. I hadn't worked too closely with them. So the second time I was able to find people who I'd really worked with and they were able to, give some really strong points that helped my evidence. And then the two final things, like you said, time was just way more on our hands the second time, which I know not everyone is in that situation, but it really, really helps to be able to take time and plan accordingly rather than just, rush it and have a very, incoherent application. And then, of course, I got the support the second time. So the
Mm.
first time I did it on my own with help from, a colleague or a previous colleague from my MBA who had got the visa, but um, I think she was very focused from her lens. So it's really hard to apply what she did if our profiles didn't match. So the second time, just having you right from day one, having our checklist, being a bit more structured, having the support, I think that really, really helped.
Yeah, that's really helpful because it is important to, I know it's important to kind of talk to different people to get inspired and get ideas. But when you're in your application and you've got too many people telling you different things, it then gets you spiral, then you have what I call analysis paralysis because you don't know which way you're going and you keep overthinking your documents and your applications. So it's good to just stay focused and have that strategy and stick to that strategy. And yeah, you're right. I think yeah, there's huge differences, and it's also personal as well. I think mindset and you just taking the time, and also I feel like you may have enjoyed the process a little bit better because there was time to reflect a lot. I know maybe we had a lot of more time.
Mm.
But yeah, just reflection, giving yourself that time and space to reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your experts because they were a bit different. Like you said, you focused on titles and people who had great titles, but the content in their letters it didn't really go into much detail because they didn't really know your work as much as those who had different titles, not lesser title, because that's still okay as long as they're an industry expert who can talk to your work in the tech
Yeah.
sector.
Yeah. So it was really interesting just going through, who to find for my experts, but I ended up using people that I just come across throughout my career, and then also my postgraduate studies, my MBA. So I had my three people were one from my time in the US. It was the CMO of a tech company that I worked at, and he was my manager's manager, but he was very helpful in putting together a great recommendation. The second one was from my time doing my MBA and one of the administration who was the head of entrepreneurship who I'd worked quite closely with. She gave me a good reference. And then the third was from a venture capital program I did. And then the co-founder of the program, he wrote a nice recommendation. So those were my three main ones, but I also had additional supports from a founder that I worked with, and then the co-founder from the startup that I just transitioned out of. I had another letter from a past administrator from the MBA, and then another letter from an old manager in the US. So yeah, I think the first time I was very much focused on my old employers and who had high titles, but I think going deep with you was helpful to know that you can go beyond your employers
Yeah.
and get people from all walks of life, as long as they know you well and you have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, and with yours, it was good because you had volunteered and helped so many different organizations throughout your career that this is the time to show it. It's
Mhm.
not just about your work. In fact, the assessors don't want just people from your work. They want to see how you are overall in the tech sector. So you were perfect. That's why I was shocked that you didn't get it. But obviously, when I saw your evidence, it's clear because it just needs a lot more content, a lot more structure and detail. And
Yeah.
we went really deep. Like I was like, why? If why? So what? Tell me why. There were
Yeah.
lots of things I was just trying to draw from you because we want to tell that story. And it was a really good story in the end. You had done so much, and I was so proud of you seeing your application because this is what they're looking for. This is what I want.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it was interesting because the first time, when I came to you for the appeal, I remember you going through my first application and saying it's all there, but you feel we're just scratching the surface. I remember using that exact phrase. So, yeah,
yeah.
it really is about going deep and creating that unique
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got it. I've got it from you. Just asking the right
Mhm.
questions and pulling as much information as possible to tell that story. Okay, so then what criteria did we select then after we picked your experts?
Yeah, so we used OC2 and OC3. And from your presentation, I think it was the volunteer work was OC2. And so that was really focused on, my community engagement and thought leadership outside of my actual job. So for there, I had some speaking engagements that I'd done. I'd helped slash mentor a startup, so got a good, letter from the founder there. And then a letter from the MBA administration showing, the impact I'd had on the community, which was an African focused, community during the MBA, which I really helped with their events and just with their strategy moving forward. So that was OC2. And then for OC3, it was the contributions, I believe, to like a product or a service. So this, focused more on the commercial breakthroughs, I guess you can call it, that I'd had. So there we focused on the startup that I worked with in the US, and I'd won an award there, which we highlighted. And then we used an award from the company, which I helped contribute to. So that was more so on the commercial side. And I think it really helped kind of having all the pieces put together because the letter from the CMO that I talked about earlier, it really corroborated a lot of, the evidence that I had. So we were able to show the contribution in terms of my sales acumen through the awards, but then it was backed up by the CMO. And then we also talked about my recent transition out of the startup, but the sales that I helped there and the partnerships that I made. And again, a letter backed that up. So it was nice putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, because I think what people forget is assessors are looking at your evidence in silo.
Yeah.
But you've got 15 documents, and some of the documents need to relate to each other. So you have to point the assessor to refer them to certain other pieces of evidence so they can see the whole story and they can follow your story. It's like chapters, chapters in a book. And that's really important. And also, I think the difference between your first and second was we focused on the criteria. We
Mhm.
really looked at the criteria and looked at the evidence to meet that criteria and just focused on that, a laser focus on that, so that the assessor can't come back and say, well, this doesn't, it didn't meet the criteria. It's like, no, we did. And this is why we're using the same wording. And we really just doubled down on it and focused on it. And I think, yeah, your OC3 was really strong in the end.
Yeah.
It was hard to kind of, because when people are working, they focus on their work and yes,
Mhm.
their impact, but then they move on to the next project or move on to the next thing. They don't get to come back and really reflect on the impact, not only what they did, but to the company and to the industry, and to, just bringing that back and reflecting, as I say.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I'm really proud of you. Okay, so let's look at the timing. It was quite a journey with you for the timing. So let's talk about the first application and then the second application.
Yeah. So the first application, like I said, I sort of rushed it, but I submitted sometime in October. And I think I began working with it in October, maybe very late September. So it was really put together quite quickly. But I submitted on the 15th of October. I then got the decision, which was unsuccessful on the 28th of October. And then I submitted an appeal on the 8th of November. And then I got the decision on the 13th of November. So that was quite a short time. I think, yeah, the mind was made up
Yeah.
that I didn't fit the bill. And then the second application, so we began working on it at the start of this year, bear in mind I was already in touch with you for the appeal. But we started at the start of this year, but there were breaks for projects and interviews that came
Holidays,
up.
yeah.
But I really appreciated how accommodating you were for that. But then I ended up submitting on the 21st of July. I
Mhm.
got my decision on the 12th of September. So it took pretty much the full 8 weeks, which was
Okay. In your defense, that was July, right? So that
yeah,
was when they changed that whole application process in
correct.
August. And a
Yeah,
lot of people got caught in that, you know, that transition. So I
yeah,
feel like you got caught in that transition. So not everyone, like yours was like the 8th week, the last
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Oh, you poor thing, the painful
Yeah.
process.
No, I definitely, because I mean, before I submitted, I was getting emails being like, they're going to say change systems, going to change systems. So I think that's definitely what happened. But yeah, so 21st July and then decision 12th September. And then I did my biometrics on the 25th of September, which was a Thursday. And then I got my e-visa on the 29th, so the following Monday. So it was a really long waiting time, but once the decision was come, it was literally within days.
Exactly. So that's the silver lining is,
Yeah.
even though it took ages to get the endorsement, it was even quicker, like days for your
Yeah.
yeah. And they did say 3 to 8 weeks, but yeah, I got mine within a week and you got yours within a day or two. But now, it's e-visas now. With mine, I had to like, give my passport. There was like a sticker on my part. It was like, yeah, it was like olden times. So you got your visa and it's all done after all. So really, it's been a year nearly from the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, pretty much, which is a really long
Yeah.
journey.
If someone told you it would take a year, of course you'd be like, oh my gosh. But when you're in it, it doesn't really, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of it, obviously, I really wanted to submit as quickly as possible. But I think once you let go of that, I need to get in by a certain date.
Yeah.
Again, everyone's circumstances are different, but once you let go of that, I think you can put together a strong application and even do things that could help your application. So, yeah, in the end, I think it was worth it. I think I needed to be in Ghana during this time. Uh,
Mm,
so yeah, I'm just glad
yeah.
it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I think you needed to be in Ghana too. And it was really nice to see your transition and just helping you out throughout that journey as well. I mean, just looking back though, okay, now we're going to advice actually.
Okay.
Um, because your visa was expiring in January and you submitted and you started the process just a bit before that, would you tell people, even though your visa was expiring in January, do you think they should, like, you could have started the January before to give you that time,
I think
maybe?
so. Again, everyone's situation is different,
Mm,
but I think if there's something that you want
mm,
to go for, then it doesn't hurt to start early, because different at different points, different pieces of evidence might come to you, or different people you can use for
mm,
recommenders. So I think it never hurts to start early. I just wasn't sure because
mm.
prior to applying, I was actually in Tunisia for 10 months, so I was all over the place. But yeah, if you know the
Okay,
UK
makes
very
sense
well,
now. No, it's like, I want to apply, just do it, just do it. Okay, I appreciate why yeah, you weren't sure at the time. But look, maybe I guess when you apply, it's when you know you want it. If
yeah,
if you didn't get it, so you were like, no, actually, I do want it and I want to spend the time. So that was fine because it didn't cost you anything the first time.
no, yeah,
So yeah, okay. All right, so let's go to the formal advice. Like, what formal advice would you give to others
okay,
who are going through
yeah.
this?
I would say that the four pieces of advice, the first one would be it's really, all about your story. So just be sure to tell that clearly. The assessors are really interested in seeing your unique journey and how that would add to the UK's tech ecosystem. So instead of thinking about presenting a checklist of, your achievements, which is sort of what I did in my first application, really just go deep into your plans for the UK and how you've got to the point you're at. So I think that's the first one. The second one is, if you feel you need it, definitely get the expert help early, which is what we just spoke about. But I think the guidance will save you so much time and stress and even money if you have to end up applying, and yeah, I think it'll save you so much. And I think it also just helps with nuances. And yeah, Michelle, you'd worked with a lot of clients. So, you had feedback that you're able to use and you can say what worked and what didn't work. So, yeah, just get the expert help early if you think that's the way to go. The third would be, just, and this is maybe what I needed to hear at the time, but just not rushing it or, idolizing or wrapping your identity in it. Obviously, everyone's situation is different, but if you're not able to rush it and you have time on your side, um, you're able to just be a bit more intentional about your application and pursue other opportunities that could actually help strengthen your application. So that would be the third. And then the fourth is maybe just like, having faith, and trusting the process. And you don't want to get to the stage where you apply twice, but even if you have to, just not to get discouraged by it, because, just because they say not now doesn't mean not ever. And it really doesn't mean you're not qualified. It could just be a framing issue. So those are the four pieces of advice I'd give to anyone.
Ah, that's really nice. And you've shown so much resilience in this process. It really does make you a more resilient person because there was times when you're like, oh God, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to do it. I don't know. And I'm like, no, you can just have a break and we'll come back. And it is hard. I know what you meant in terms of rushing it. I mean, I had no choice and to rush it myself as well. I only had, when was it? I think 2 or 3 months to apply as well. Um, and I was running my startup and I spent a few months doing it. I didn't sleep. And I got my endorsement, I think, a few weeks before my visa expired. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I would have to go back to Australia. But yeah, it is very stressful. So the earlier you can plan, I think, the better, so that you don't put yourself under that unnecessary pressure. But look, if you do need to apply quickly, you just have to, and
Yeah.
get as much help as possible because I've done that before. I've helped someone apply within 3 weeks. I don't think
Wow.
we both didn't sleep. I've been there before. I don't like to do it, but if I have to, I will.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've gone through the endorsement application twice and you've got the one visa, what does the visa mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a nice, it's given me a lot of confidence, first of all, in my abilities. I think that's the main thing. Especially after the first one, you're like, okay, what, am I qualified? So the first one is just, yeah, it's a nice feeling. It is a special visa. And it's nice being part of a community that are all looking to contribute to the UK's tech system. So that's the first one. And then just the flexibility to work in the UK, while keeping a foot in the Ghanaian ecosystem. I think that's a really big benefit. It's not tied to a role. There aren't
Mm.
specific amount of days I need to be in the UK, so I can just be a bit more intentional about my future plans. And then, as you mentioned, yeah, just the resilience. It's the visas taught me about resilience, and about the ups and downs and the twists and turns, and yeah, the change in guidelines, everything in between. So yeah, I'm just happy it's giving me the flexibility and just, giving me that mindset that you can keep going and achieve what you want to achieve.
And that applies to your life.
Yeah.
You're in sales. You know that no doesn't mean no forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
just plant the
Exactly.
seed and come back to them later. And it really is a life-changing experience and visa. So I'm so happy for you, Noi. I didn't realize until the other day when we said, when did you start this process? And it has been almost a year and we've known each other for that long, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like yesterday, but I'm so glad I've known you for that long, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to hearing what your future plans is now. Like what are your future plans in the UK? Like I think you mentioned that you want to keep, your foot into two, which is fine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, right now I'm actually in Ghana and I'll probably plan on being in the UK later on this year or early next year. I have a trip to Senegal and Dakar as part of the, venture capital retreat. The venture capital program that I mentioned, they're doing a retreat. But I think I'm just going to be exploring roles that sit at that intersection of, Africa
Mm.
and the UK. And then also down the line, maybe start planting the seeds for launching my own business in the AI space, but maybe more so to do with data centers. But I think the beauty about the visa is I'm just a lot less pressured, and I can be very, very intentional about my next steps. So kind of just taking it day by day. Yeah.
Well done. And that's the beauty about it. You don't have to make, you've made that big decision of wanting to be in the UK, but what that looks like, you've got the time now to decide and to kind of explore and just be free to do that. And that's really nice. It's a nice feeling. It really is.
Yeah,
You should be
definitely.
proud of yourself. I
Uh,
hope you are. Yeah.
I am,
And your
no, and thank you
parents.
so much for all your, support and help. And I mean, I literally couldn't have imagined the process without you. So I
Thank
really
you. I'm so glad I gave you the wings so you can fly now. That's how I feel with all my clients. Like your advice and everything. I remember telling you, like, could have told you half these things, but you don't know until you experience it yourself. And just hearing your advice to others, it's like, yes, I did my job, and I'm glad because you can tell others, about your story and what you think, and because you've gone through such, a journey, they should listen to you and trust you. It is more difficult the second time around, and you've learned so much about yourself, about the process, and yeah, you can go on and mentor others in this and saying, okay, this is what you need to watch out for. Yeah, and you're right. And you are good in saying that everyone's journey is different. It's so true because you see people who are blind, blindly following others and not realizing that their journey is so different from mine. If someone got it, I should get it as well because I've got the same background. Well, no, you
Yeah,
can take inspiration, but everyone has different, evidence and relationships and application documents and things like that. So
yeah. It's
thank you.
very unique to you. And then I think maybe the final thing that I add is it also just taught me the power of like, relationships and networks because yeah, the people who helped in terms of my letters and references were from all walks of my life. But, having that relationship and being able to reach out to them and then being so receptive. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
It's
you mentioned don't burn bridges and it's that's a key lesson.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like asking for help because you kind of feel like, oh no, I'm asking for help and what if they don't help me? And I'm like, well, if they don't, that's okay. Like you've asked the question, but knowing who you are as a person, they will help you. They
Yeah,
will help you. And they did. No one said no.
yeah.
Everyone did help you and they wrote you amazing letters. And you've got that now that, if you feel a little bit insecure or doubting yourself, read those letters because
Yeah.
that
All the
that that
time,
helps you. Yeah. I mean, I still read letters from my mentor when she wrote me a lovely letter and I nearly cried because it was so sweet that she thought
yeah.
that way about me when I didn't think that way of me. So it really is nice to keep those letters because every now and then you will need a little pick me up, and it's really nice to keep reading those letters every now and then.
Yeah, that's
But otherwise, just call me and I'll tell you. I'll tell you how amazing you are. Thank you so much. Now I've got some questions. If people want to ask questions, please do put it in the chat or the Q&A. Um, so Fatima's given you a loaded question. I think I'll let you answer this. How can you prepare step by step for the GTV? I'm going to step by step, but what's your advice on preparing in a
yeah.
nutshell?
I think the first thing is probably just read the guidelines, really understand them for yourself. And then maybe the second step is just know which category you're choosing. I mean, I think, based on this call, it's probably the digital technology, but within that, knowing whether you're going for sales or, something a bit more technical. And then I think maybe having a checklist, and this is where it was helpful, being with you because we had a very detailed checklist of what we needed. So that would be the main thing. If you need the help, get it at this stage. And then maybe reach out to your recommenders and not necessarily telling them um, to write it instantly, but just telling them that you're in this process and you might be reaching out down the line because everyone is busy with their schedules. And if last minute someone can't do it, you can reach out to other people. Um, and then maybe, yeah, just start building and gathering your evidence, which would take some time. I think with that, maybe my piece of advice would be doing it one piece at a time, just so you don't get, overwhelmed, which is what we were really good at doing. And then, yeah, put the entire application together, read it all together, make sure it tells your unique story, and then making sure it all flows. So if, you can reference your letters in your evidence and, in some of the letters, maybe talk to them about talking about specific things you're including in your evidence. So just having one unique story, but that's kind of the step by step of how I'd
Yeah.
approach it.
Thank you. That's very good. And I would have said the same. So, Fatima, I hope that helps. She's got loads of questions. How can you prepare screenshots from Git or codes for participation in code development? So, yeah, you take screenshots, but make sure that your name is on some of it as well and kind of explain what it is, and try to tell that story of, what is this code for? Like, and really structure the evidence as if you're telling a story. And it has to be your code, obviously, and where point to where it says it's yours. I have a lot of clients who just screenshot things, and I'm looking for their names. I'm looking for things because that's what the assessors are looking for. But if it's teamwork, then focus on what you contributed. Is it okay to have one recommendation letter from academia in addition to technical recommendations? Yeah, absolutely. The more recommendations from different people, the better. If you have a technical skill, they would expect letters from technical people. If you have a business skill, they would expect letters from business people. So think about, what skill you have, and then that's what the assessors are wanting people to verify that you have those skills. So yeah, think about that a little bit. And from academia is fine. From industry is fine. And try to have a varied application telling. It's interesting to have people from different organizations because they will have different perspectives of you. There's no point having two different people from the same organization because they're probably going to say the same thing about you. So just be wary of that. Don't waste letters or people saying the same thing as others. So just make sure you have a varied application and people talking about you from different perspectives. I think, Noah, you had like 6 or 7 letters, 7 different people telling all these different things about you.
Yeah, and I
But it's
think
the
that
same. They were saying similar things, but not the same things. Like you're a leader, you contribute, all that kind of stuff.
exactly. I mean, to your point, yeah, it's nice having them from all walks of life. I think the only guideline is they need to have known you for 12 months or worked with you
Yeah.
for 12 months. So yeah, it doesn't need to
Mm.
just technical academia.
Yeah, I think I answered Mia's question as well. So you need 3 letters of recommendation because that's you have to have that. But then I call them letters of support to help you fulfill the criteria. So you know how there's 10 documents that you also need to provide. So some of those documents need to be in the form of a letter as well to confirm the evidence that you're submitting to meet that criteria. So as I said with noise, in the end, we had 6 or 7 letters in the end, and that's what I would typically want for my clients. 3 letters of recommendations are not enough. You need at least all in about 6 to 7. Um, Okay, if you start today, when should you finish preparing? It's really how long is a piece of string? It depends if you have all the evidence or if you're missing some. And that's what my strategy session is for, is to help you see where you're at today. And then we look for gaps. If there's any gaps, then you're going to need time to fill those gaps. But if there aren't any gaps, I could help someone or you could do it yourself. I would say probably 2 months. I wouldn't say 2 weeks. 2 weeks is not a long time, especially if you're getting experts to help you. I had to wait 3 weeks painfully for one of the professors at a university to sign my letter. Oh my gosh, those 3 weeks were just horrible. I ended up having to ring his wife because they worked together. I said, "Can you please ask your husband to sign the letter?" And he'd been sitting on it for 3 weeks. So yeah, letter signing is a process. Um, Okay, so yeah, try start as early as possible. Okay, if your referee doesn't have a letterhead, yep, so they can write in their own personal capacity. So just get them to put their name as a letterhead, and that's absolutely fine. Big tech corps and all that, they don't like people using their logos and things like that. So yeah, that's fine. Um, if you can't get screenshots, if you're no longer with the company, then you don't have evidence. So you need it, don't you know? You had that issue. You need to get it somehow. but
Yeah.
obviously it's confidential, so you have to be careful. I know in the technician guidelines they talk about, everything that you submit is confidential, and that's fine. But I'm very careful about, even if the assessors are looking at it, you still need to protect company information as well. So you just have to manage that as well. If you're leading the developers and the screenshots from organizations, GitHub shows names of software developers. I wouldn't, I would redact any names and emails of third parties. I would highlight your own name. So that's something that I need to highly strongly advise is take away any personal details of people that you've taken screenshots of. Yeah, so I think that's it. Any other things, Noi?
I
No?
think that that covers it. The question about, you're no longer with the company, I think again that just comes down to relationships, and you might as well ask because you never know
Yeah.
who can do you a favor there. Of course, with what they're allowed to given confidentiality, but yeah.
Yeah. Business analyst is not specific in the skills, but you work in, yeah. So, yeah, just pick whichever's closest and then don't worry because I think when you fill out the application form, it's a drop down and you have to tick, and that's okay. But when you do then describe what you did in your role and your evidence, it's fine. Titles don't mean that much these days. It's what you did matters. So, it's fine. You can use that. That's fine. Um, okay, we're over, and I'm so sorry. And thank you, Noi, for sticking around and staying to answer the questions and for being such a wonderful guest. I really do appreciate it because not everyone shares their story, and that's completely fine because, I know that sometimes once you share your story, you're out there and people contact you. But I've not had anyone from Ghana tell their story. And I hope that you inspire your fellow Ghanaians to really look at this visa and who knows, they can apply. And if they don't get it the first time, that's okay. You can take a breath and then apply again and resubmit. That's why it's there. There's an opportunity to appeal. There's an opportunity to resubmit. You just have to pay another fee. But I mean, in the hundreds, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. It gives you that opportunity, and you are the true success story of that.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm happy to share my story, and
Thank
thanks again for all your help, Michelle. It was really
you.
appreciated.
I'm so glad I was able to coach you to success. I really did, especially when you first came to me and I was so I was like, oh, could you come to me earlier so that I could help you get it the first time? But look, you came to me in the end and we got you there. And I just can't say how proud I am of you in this, not just with the application, but just in your approach to life, to this process. And I have high expectations of you now, of what you're going to be doing in the UK. But no pressure, but I just because of the person that you are, really.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, you deserve it. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I hope if you can reach out and press an emoji. I know everyone's been using the emojis all day today on during the webinar, but if you can find an emoji and congratulate Noi with me, and I would like to congratulate you. I love my flags, and I will give you one when we meet in London one day at my event, and I think everyone is very inspired by your story. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it here now. So thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Awesome.
Noi.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Everyone. Bye.